Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. You're watching Constitutionally Yours from this lovely campus of Karnataka High Court in Bangalore. Constitutionally Yours is a program where we attempt to demystify provisions of Constitution. Joining me in this endeavor are a distinguished panel of guests, Justice Raghvendra Chauhan, Judge of the Karnataka High Court. I have with me Mr. S Ugrappa, who is a senior leader and MLC nominated by the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly Karnataka. And we also have with us Captain Ganesh Karnik, Member of Legislative Assembly nominated by the Leader of Opposition Karnataka Legislative Assembly. Joining us in this audience are students from National Law School, and they would be participating and putting questions to our guests on the dais. Question that I want to start off with, and straight away getting into the issue without wasting any time, is Article 48, which is popularly understood as prohibition of cow slaughter. Now, what does the provision say? And I will read it. The state shall endeavour to organize agriculture and animal husbandry on modern and scientific lines, and shall in particular take steps for preserving and improving the breeds and prohibiting the slaughter of cows and calves and other milch and draft cattle. Straight away my question is, it's a very progressive, forward-looking goal that the Constitution has set us to achieve, or wants the states to achieve. Why does it always boil down to just banning cow slaughter? What about the other aspects which are economically progressive, which are kept in, which are for the benefit of the economics of this country? Why does it have to boil down to just cow slaughter, which anyway is has to be achieved?
Okay, again this is a desire of the Constitution, or you would say under the directive principles. Maybe I am not erudite, I am not enlightened like the framers of or the founders of the Constitution. The very fact that the thought of bringing in a legislation to ensure that there is no cow slaughter, illegal cow slaughter or whatever it is, they must have thought about the economic contributions of the cattle to our country. The second part is, as a matter of faith, for the majority community, cow is a holy animal. Now, when you respect, or as a constitution, when you start respecting the faith, matters of faith has to be respected by the Constitution also. From that perspective, they desired that the cow slaughter has to be banned by the state. Now, as I understand, except 2 or 3 states, or maybe a little more, I am not exactly having the number, other states have legislated.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in implementation they have failed. Now, when the majority community's feelings of faith are being disturbed in the name of somebody's faith is being disturbed or somebody's eating habits are disturbed, I think Constitution has to come in way to ensure that the faith of the majority community is ensured. The second part is, how do you preserve your breed? How do you promote agriculture? All the ill effects of so-called chemical fertilizers being used on the land and its ill effects, how you can overcome, all these things have to be looked into. So I personally feel cow slaughter or ban on cow slaughter as desired by the Constitution has to be implemented in all states.
Again, a question, it's a provision which is very progressive. It wants the state to also ensure that the entire animal husbandry takes off and goes to a new level and should not just be reduced to cow slaughter issue. But why, and if the state has legislated, then why not implement ban on cow slaughter? That's the question.
In Article 48 of the Constitution, there are 3 things. 1, the state shall endeavour to organize agriculture and animal husbandry on modern and scientific lines, which we are not giving importance to it.
Correct. The states are not.
Second thing, shall in particularly take steps for preserving and improving the breeds, which we are not giving much importance to.
Yes.
Now the people of one section of society, they are hampering to have a ban on cow slaughter. See, we have to see two things. One,
But is a matter of their faith a concern for you?
Listen, ultimately we have to see the reality. We have to see the agricultural economy first. Second, we have to see the food habits of the major section of the society. The people who are taking this meat or beef, there are large number of people are there. See, ultimately, our country has been exporting beef. So in fact, in the entire world, India is the largest country in export of beef. This is one. Second thing, old cows, if you are going to keep it as it is, so who will feed for it? Who will feed
So
for
slaughter
it?
them.
This is one thing. Second thing, so ultimately see the economy of an agriculturist. If he is going to have a old one without any sort of assistance from cows or bulls, etc., etc. That is why the Honorable Supreme Court of India, as early as again 1996, they have laid down a law stating that it will be reasonable for cutting the bulls of aged 16 and above. That is why, ultimately see the views, see the habits of major section of the society and see the economic position of the agriculturists. So in these two issues, ultimately I think it is proper to allow them to go for
cow slaughter. Sir, your point specifically on the provisions and how the goal that is enshrined there. Cow slaughter is definitely a part of it and generates a lot of heat, but it's the other part that is largely ignored, which Mr. Ugrappa brought out. Why so, and what's the way forward?
I think first of all we have to interpret this particular provision, as Mr. Ugrappa said, in different sections. There's the scientific development of animal husbandry, agriculture, breeding, but this is also tied in with the ban on cow slaughter. Now the difficulty is, when we talk about ban on cow slaughter, there are two sides of the coin. One side which talks about faith of the majority, and as mentioned by Captain Saab, that the faith of the majority has to be kept in mind. Then my question would be, should the faith of the minority and uniform civil code not be kept in mind?
Good point.
Can you say, when it comes to cow slaughter, sir, we go by the faith of the majority, but when it comes to the uniform civil code,
we go by the faith of
we ignore the faith of the minority. Therefore, let us not talk about faith, because that is a very ephemeral thing. The other side of the coin is the economic implication. Now, there also a subdivision in that. If you look at from the perspective of an agrarian economy, yes, the cow needs to be protected, promoted, and that's why in the case of Mirzapur, Moti, the Honorable Supreme Court has upheld even a total ban on cow slaughter as being constitutionally valid. And that is how the Honorable Supreme Court in that case justifies, saying that look at from the perspective of an agrarian economy. There, when the ban was put that you were not even permitted to slaughter cows and buffaloes who were above the age of 16. And mind you, their lifespan is anywhere from 8 to 16. So those who are above the age of 16 would be, quote unquote, almost older, geriatric in that species. The Honorable Supreme Court said, no, even if there's a ban on slaughtering them, there is reason, economic reason, that even the cow dung and the urine that is produced by them can be used as fertilizers, as part of medicines. Therefore, that ban is constitutionally valid. Now, that is one aspect of it. But there's another aspect of it. What happens to India's export of meat? What happens to the industries such as tanneries, leather, which we have a large scope for. Now, is it important for the country to earn the foreign exchange by exporting meat, by exporting leather products, by exporting the leather? Then comes the question, what happens to that butcher and that cobbler whose entire life is dependent
On the leather.
on that trade? So there are different aspects.
And everyone has to wear shoes.
And law, basically, the very purpose of law is to balance the conflicting interests within the society.
Right.
Now, it is for the society to say which is more pertinent, which is more important to us. There has to be hierarchy. So let us not get into just saying because it's the faith of the majority, therefore it has to be imposed. Constitution does not permit us to impose.
Point taken.
The Constitution expects
I
us
just
to have a
want to-
consensus.
Yeah, quickly, sir, we have to go to the
It is
question.
not the faith of the majority. You have to see that not only minorities, even other section of the society, they are beefeaters.
Okay.
When he mentioned about, I'm sorry, when he mentioned about Uniform Civil Code, the faith was not infringed. It was only civil laws we are talking of, especially with regard to rights of the women and things like that. Whereas in the question of cow slaughter, it's a holy animal for the majority community.
It's a faith being
Yes.
infringed. Okay, so that's the point you're
And
making.
when you are allowing people to
what
kill an
is
animal,
section?
you're going to hurt. You're going to hurt the feelings of people.
We'll take a question.
So, having a ban on cow slaughter under the garb of Article 48, doesn't it go against the very fabric of India being a secular state? Because it is definitely turning a blind eye towards those other communities that are actually relying on cow slaughter.
The very definition of secularism, as I understand, is the non-interference of religion in matters of state.
Correct, right,
Correct.
sir, right, sir. The
Now,
state
how-
doesn't have a religion.
How does it infringe on the rights of anybody for that matter? Now, when the framers of our constitution, when they desired that there must be ban on cow slaughter, for giving all those reasons, they must have thought about this. Had they not entered into this understanding, they wouldn't have brought it under the directive principles. And cow has been a very, very holy animal for the Hindu community or the entire country for thousands of years. So they respect their personal faith. So from that perspective, they brought in it under the directive principles, said that it shall be the endeavor of the state to bring in cow slaughter over a period of time to promote agriculture, to improve
And
the breed
other
and all
things.
those things. Yeah.
While considering this cow slaughter issue, I think we have to see Article 19 and Article 21. So, Article 19, which gives a right to have a trade, to Article 21, right to life and liberty. See, for the sake
Okay,
of life,
both read together, you
yeah,
say.
it has to read along with the provisions of Article 48.
But with reasonable restrictions.
Yeah, see, ultimately, we have to see whether right to a trade has to be infringed, whether right to life of a citizen has to be infringed by imposing a ban on cow slaughter. See, because majority of the people who are beefeaters, their right will be infringed.
Point, sir, you're making.
This is why I disagree with Captain Saab when he says that when we talk about a uniform civil code, we are talking about the civil rights of the people. My question is, sir, when we talk about cow slaughter, we are talking about the fundamental rights of the people.
Right.
Therefore, please let us not say that when it comes to cow slaughter, I will use the shield of faith to promote cow slaughter. And yet when it comes to UCC, the Uniform Civil Code, we say, no, now we are going to talk about and use civil rights as the shield. Let us also remember one thing. The Honorable Supreme Court has defined the difference between a religious doctrine which is so essential to its very existence and rituals and faith which are separate, they are secular activities. Therefore, let us not say that or merely because I believe that a cow is holy, therefore it is such an essential part of Hinduism as a religion that it cannot exist without it. It is merely a faith of some members of the Hindu community to say cow is holy. There are others who are equally Hindu but may not believe in that. But nonetheless, they don't become less of a Hindu because they do not believe in that. Therefore, let us not say, and this is what we were mentioning even earlier.
Yeah.
Please draw a distinction between faith,
And right.
custom, rituals, and the essential doctrine of a religion.
Yes, Captain
Yeah.
Karnik, quickly.
I agree with the justice in the sense, yes, there are different points of opinion on that. When you say beef, it also includes the meat of the buffaloes.
Yeah.
See, Hindu community doesn't talk about it. Now, I cannot insist I want to eat beef, so don't have the cow slaughter, a ban on cow slaughter. If you want to eat beef, it's also called beef only. You can eat the beef on which
Buffalo side.
buffalo's meat, where the Hindu community doesn't complain at all. They have absolutely no issues about it.
It's time for us to head into a break. When we come back, we will continue the discussion on prohibition of cow slaughter. Welcome back. Continuing with the discussion on prohibition of cow slaughter. Straight away, next question. Yeah.
Shouldn't we look whether it's an essential element of Islam, or should we look at the practices of the past? Well,
I don't think it is the right of the minority community. I don't think it is the right of the minority community.
That question has already been answered by the Honorable Supreme Court, where the Honorable Supreme Court says that sacrifice of a cow is not essential to Islam. In fact, if you look at it, in others, in fact, way back in 1944, let me share this with you. Way back in 1944, the Riyasat of Jaipur said even on Bakrid, the Muslim community will not be permitted to sacrifice a cow. So, Islam can never claim that sacrifice of a cow is so essential that Islam cannot exist without first sacrificing a cow.
Captain Karnik, you were making a point.
No, I was telling it is not the right. It's what I think Justice elaborated. You can't claim that, for the sake of sacrifice, which is your practice or faith, it is not. It doesn't become a right.
So,
Say
Mr.
about
Ugrappa,
4% of the people, they are believing that cow is a only one. See, majority of the people, they believe that it is a food. It is an animal which gives something for the society. The people who are advocating this cow slaughter has to be banned. So, when that cow died, nobody will take care of it. Ultimately, the persons who are eating this beef, they have to take care of it.
no. Sir, since...
See the fun. Ultimately, one side they will say that we have to perform puja for a cow when it is alive. When the cow is died, nobody takes care of it. Ultimately, Muslims or minorities and the persons who are in the depressed section.
Yes, Mr. Karnik.
No. I slightly differ from Mr. Ugrappa on various counts. Number one, I don't agree that it is a very small, minuscule 4% minority who doesn't eat, beef. It is incorrect. Number one. Number two, it is not the issue of beef alone. For majority of the Indians, cow is a holy animal. We worship cow. So, sentiments of the people are hurt. And the constitution, it clearly says it shall be the endeavor of the state to introduce cow slaughter, ban on cow slaughter. Now, having said this, don't you think the founders of the constitution, when they debated in the Constituent Assembly, Vinoba Bhave talked about it, Gandhiji from outside talked about it, Ambedkar talked about it, everybody talked about it. And more than 27 states have introduced this ban on cow slaughter. So, don't tell me that everybody is blind and they simply went with the faith.
Next question.
Although the sections of the question, which are the agriculture and animal husbandry, may have been politically ignored, but we have more or less achieved green revolution and many other revolution. But when you talk about a timeline, the conflict of law will be so settled that we will prohibit cow slaughter, and my sentiment as a Hindu will be taken care of.
So, his point is why is the faith always compromised when you are looking at cow slaughter? Why is it right to do that?
Sir, I don't think it's a question of faith. Let us first divorce faith from law. law does not and should not be influenced by faith. Number one. Number two, when we talk about majority, the faith of the majority, we at the same time cannot have the tyranny of the majority. The Constitution will not permit us to impose the tyranny of the majority on the minority. As I said, the very function of law is to balance the conflicts of interest. If there is a conflict of interest between the, let's say, the faith of the majority and the faith of the minority, a middle path would have to be invented or created. So let us not talk about cow slaughter in terms of faith only. Let us also look at it from the economic point of view. As a state, as a secular state, we must rise above this tussle of faith and go on to a higher level, talk about the economic implications. Now, economic implications are on both the sides. If you remember, the World Health Organization has even predicted and has been warning India that until and unless you take care of your cattle population, you are heading for a doom, economic doom, because that cattle, when it eats the grass, is getting rid of your topsoil. The moment your topsoil goes, your agriculture is in trouble. And let us not forget one thing. One of the theories for the demise of the Indus Valley civilization is, in fact, that the cattle population had reached to such an extent that the topsoil had gone.
Sir,
Do we wish to repeat that mistake, sir?
sir, I'll go to the next question, sir. But does faith recognize wisdom? That's where the question is.
So though we have Article 48 in picture or action, how are we the biggest exporter in beef?
I think I have the same question. More than 27 states have enacted a ban on cow slaughter. Still, if it is happening means the states have continuously failed to implement the ban on cow slaughter.
Is there a ban on cow slaughter in Karnataka?
Yes, we have.
No.
Not
It's
it's a
a
partial ban.
partial ban.
It's a partial ban.
In fact, most of the states have partial ban. There are very few. For example, I believe the state of Gujarat, from where this Mirzapur case came from before the Honorable Supreme Court, that may be the one state that has a total ban. But many of the states have partial ban. So they will permit you above a certain age with a certificate issued by the veterinary doctor and under certain circumstances to have a cow slaughter. But it is not for cows or female bovine, it is for male bovine and above certain age. So there are distinctions that the law maintains.
So
Yes, Mr.
to
Ugrappa.
answer
See,
that question,
in fact,
just
UP,
Ugrappa, one second.
Bihar,
Ugrappa, one
Karnataka,
second.
in other states, partial ban is there. So ultimately, concerned doctor, more particularly veterinary doctor, has to certify whether it is
Proper for slaughter.
proper for cutting or not.
And please remember that
And
the
this is one
eastern
thing.
states,
Second thing, so we are trying to mislead the society, stating that majority people are having this faith. No, it is other way.
To
Correct.
It is
answer
other
him,
way. Only
number one,
a minority section of the society, they are having such faith.
no,
Right.
to answer your question, number one, whatever legislation we have made, we have failed to implement. Number two, a large part of the export in the name of beef is coming from buffaloes. That's how it is being exported.
Yeah. Next question.
So my question is, we hear a lot about cow slaughter and all, but the animals which are actually on the verge of extinction, like camels in Rajasthan and water buffaloes, we do not hear anything about them. So how do we tackle the extinction of those animals rather than hearing more about cow slaughter?
Yes, Mr. Ugrappa, you would like to?
See, ultimately, state as well as society has to give importance for animals and for environment. Why we have been facing floods, drought and all? Because there is a lot of destruction of one side animals, other side forest, environmental disorders are there. See, it is the duty, that is why in Article 48, Constitution made it very, very clear that the state has to give importance for scientific breeding as well as scientific agriculture and horticulture.
Yeah.
Then only we will have breeds to continue.
To answer.
Right to life, as far as the human being is concerned, is a fundamental right. Today, I think we should start talking about the right to life of an animal. We have to legislate accordingly. Only then we will talk in terms of respecting the life of an animal also.
Correct.
That's something we should progressively think about it.
No. Ultimately, we have to see the food.
Let me just add one thing. It is not that the lives of those animals are not protected. There is the Wildlife Act that protects most of our wildlife, of animals and flora and fauna, all. Number two, to answer your question, why certain animals are now becoming extinct, even this camel, which is not, I would not say it has become extinct, it's not even in the endangered species list yet. But the fact is that since we no longer use these animals, therefore people are no longer interested in breeding and increasing the population of those animals.
So on that point, sir, that's all we have time for in this episode. We'll be back with a new issue and a new subject. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.